still remember the way the morning light fell on the tatami mats in that quiet home outside Kyoto. The air was crisp, the kettle hummed gently, and across the table sat Mr. Kobayashi, a 78-year-old retired teacher who had once walked an hour each day to his classroom in the mountains. That morning, he looked at me and said something I've never forgotten. "I don't need to be young again," he whispered. "I just want to wake up and not fear my own body." He had type 2 diabetes. Like so many others, he was told to eat less, move more, take his pills. But no one told him how to live with it, how to greet the morning without dread, how to trust his body again. That became my life's work. Over the past 40 years in Japan, I've watched how small morning rituals shape entire lifetimes. I've seen patients reduce their medications not through miracle cures but through mindful habits, practiced before breakfast. No magic, just quiet consistency. Today, I want to share 5 of those powerful morning habits with you. These are not fads. They are simple, science-backed changes that helped hundreds of my patients from Tokyo to Tennessee regain balance, energy, and confidence in managing their diabetes. But that's not all. We'll also uncover 5 hidden dangers in common foods, especially meats, that silently sabotage your blood sugar. Foods that seem harmless, even healthy, but quietly inflame your body day after day. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right eating healthy, staying active yet your numbers don't improve, this video is for you. So before we dive into the lists and facts, I have just one question. Are you ready to stop managing diabetes and start transforming your mornings? Let's begin. 1. The morning glass that changed everything. I once met a man named Harold in the quiet town of Asheville, North Carolina. He was 74, a retired forest ranger with a weathered face and eyes that had seen thousands of sunrises. But lately, he told me he no longer looked forward to mornings. "I feel foggy," he said, "like my body's still sleeping even when I'm wide awake." Harold had been living with type 2 diabetes for over a decade. He took his medications, watched what he ate, but still every morning started with that same heaviness. So we began with something incredibly simple. A glass of water. Every morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before checking his phone, Harold poured himself a glass of room temperature water and drank it slowly by the window. Within 2 weeks, the fog started to lift. It sounds too simple to matter, but that one glass of water kickstarts something profound. You see, while we sleep, our bodies become slightly dehydrated. For someone living with diabetes, this mild dehydration can cause the blood to thicken, raising the concentration of glucose. By rehydrating first thing in the morning, we help our kidneys flush out excess sugar. It's like giving your body a gentle push in the right direction before the day even begins. And it's not just about hydration. It's about ritual, about reclaiming that quiet moment before the world begins to pull us in 1,000 directions. If plain water feels too dull, there are ways to liven it up. A slice of cucumber, a wedge of lemon, a sprig of mint. These small touches not only enhance the flavor, but can make the habit feel like a gift to yourself. A small act of care that says, "I'm paying attention." Harold continued his morning water ritual every day. And over time, he didn't just feel more alert. His blood sugar levels began to stabilize. His morning readings stopped spiking. And perhaps most importantly, he began to greet the day with a little more hope. It reminded me of something I often say to my patients. Start small. Start kind. Let the healing begin before the world even wakes. Now that we've reset our mornings with a single glass, let's move to the next habit. One that feeds not just the body, but the foundation of your entire day. Let's talk about breakfast, and why the first bite you take can shape every meal that follows. 2. Eat like it matters. The power of a purposeful breakfast. There's something sacred about the first meal of the day. I remember visiting a small countryside clinic in Hokkaido, where I met a woman named Teresa. She was 69, originally from Oregon, and had moved to Japan years ago to be closer to her daughter. Teresa had a gentle energy, the kind that made you feel like time slowed down when you spoke with her. But despite her calm spirit, she was battling unpredictable blood sugar swings. Every morning, she told me, "It's like I flip a coin. Some days I'm fine, Some days I crash by 10 a.m. She believed she was doing everything right. She avoided sugar, skipped breakfast most days to save calories, and relied on coffee to get going. But when we looked deeper, the truth was simple. Her body was starving for balance. Not less food, better food. So we started with her breakfast. We created a simple plan. 1 egg, sautéed spinach, half an avocado, and a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter. Some mornings, she'd swap the egg for Greek yogurt with walnuts and blueberries. Within weeks, something shifted. Her morning crashes disappeared. Her energy lasted longer. And for the first time in years, she stopped feeling like food was her enemy. You see, in the morning, our bodies are especially sensitive to carbohydrates. This is why many people with diabetes experience sharp spikes if their breakfast is heavy in refined carbs like toast, cereal, or pastries. It is not just about how much you eat. It is about what you eat first. Protein and fiber slow down digestion, reduce glucose absorption, and keep you full longer. They anchor your blood sugar and your focus. More importantly, they help break the cycle of chasing highs and lows all day long. Teresa's story is not rare. I have seen it across cultures, ages, and lifestyles. When we give our bodies a strong foundation in the morning, everything else feels steadier. Moods level out, cravings fade, and blood sugar becomes more predictable. So here is my quiet invitation to you. Don't just eat to silence your hunger. Eat like it matters, because it does. A purposeful breakfast is not about perfection. It is about intention. About choosing foods that support you, not sabotage you. It is your chance to start the day with clarity, strength, and care. And now that we've grounded our mornings with nourishment, let's talk about something just as common, but often misunderstood. Coffee. That warm, comforting cup that so many of us reach for. Could it be helping or quietly hurting your balance? Let's take a closer look. 3. The caffeine trap. Are you sabotaging your mornings? In a quiet corner of Nagano, I once treated a man named Elijah. He was 66, originally from Michigan, a retired architect who had found peace in the Japanese countryside. His mornings were always the same. A strong cup of coffee, no breakfast, and then straight to his garden to work among the trees. But he came to me one afternoon with a concern that caught my attention. I feel jittery, then tired, and my blood sugar is all over the place, he said. I thought I was just getting older, but something feels off. When I asked about his routine, the answer was clear. It was the coffee. Not the act of drinking it, but the way it ruled his morning without support from food. For someone living with diabetes, that simple cup can sometimes do more harm than good, especially if taken alone. You see, caffeine stimulates the release of stress hormones like adrenaline. And when that happens, the liver releases stored glucose into the bloodstream. For a healthy person, this might go unnoticed. But for someone with insulin resistance, it creates a silent spike. The body floods with sugar it cannot use efficiently. Elijah was unknowingly setting himself up for a roller coaster of highs and crashes, all before breakfast. So we made a small adjustment. Instead of coffee on an empty stomach, he paired it with a protein-rich breakfast. Sometimes eggs and tofu, other days Greek yogurt with seeds. And when he was in a hurry, he tried something I often recommend, a profi coffee blended with a scoop of unsweetened protein powder. Within a couple of weeks, he started noticing the difference. More stable energy, fewer afternoon slumps, and best of all, his morning blood sugar levels began to even out. Taught him something powerful. Coffee is not the enemy, but it needs a partner. Something to anchor its energy and soften its impact. Caffeine is a tool. When used with intention, it can lift your focus and brighten your day. But when taken without care, it may quietly work against your body's natural rhythm. So if you rely on your morning brew, just remember to pair it with purpose. Fuel your body first, then enjoy the comfort of that familiar warmth. Now, with our minds awakened and our energy steadied, let's move gently into movement. Because sometimes the best medicine is not in a bottle. It is in your own 2 feet. Let's explore how even 10 minutes of motion can transform your day. 4. Gentle movement, the secret to lowering blood sugar without medicine. Some mornings in Japan begin with silence. No alarms. Just the quiet rhythm of leaves rustling outside the shoji screen and the slow creak of floorboards beneath bare feet. That's how I met Mrs. Eleanor, a 72-year-old widow from New Zealand who had moved to a small village near Lake Kawaguchi to live out her retirement in peace. She had type 2 diabetes, stiff joints, and a common belief. "I'm too old to exercise," she told me. "My body just doesn't move like it used to." But what she didn't realize was that movement doesn't have to mean exercise. It doesn't have to mean sweat or pain or pushing past limits. Sometimes it just means honoring your body with motion. We started simple. The first week, I asked her to stand on her porch after breakfast and stretch her arms toward the sky. Then, take a slow walk down her garden path and back. Took 5 minutes, but she did it every day. By the second week, she added a few gentle knee bends while holding onto her rail. By the third, she walked to the corner temple and back, taking in the scent of cedar and the sound of birdsong. And then one morning, she came to me smiling. "My fasting blood sugar dropped," she said, "and I didn't do anything hard." What Eleanor did was tap into one of the most powerful natural tools for regulating blood sugar. Gentle movement, especially after meals, helps your muscles pull glucose from the bloodstream for energy. Even 10 minutes of walking or light stretching can significantly reduce blood sugar spikes and improve insulin sensitivity. This is not about going to the gym. It is about creating a rhythm your body can trust. Scientific studies confirm that moderate movement after meals lowers post-meal glucose levels. It reduces inflammation. It supports heart health. But more than that, it gives you a sense of agency. A sense that you're not waiting on a pill to save you. You are participating in your own healing. Eleanor now walks every morning, rain or shine. She says it is her moving meditation, a ritual that not only helps her body, but steadies her mind. So if you think you are too old, too tired, or too busy to move, remember this. It doesn't have to be much. It just has to be consistent. One step, one breath, one morning at a time. And now that we've awakened the body, let's turn our attention to something just as vital. Timing. Because what you eat matters. But when you eat can change everything. Let's talk about the power of an early dinner and how it quietly reshapes your blood sugar overnight. 5. Dinner before darkness. Reset your glucose clock. I met Richard in a coastal town just outside of Yokohama. He was 63, a retired marine biologist from British Columbia, who had spent his life studying the rhythms of the ocean, tides, currents, the moon's pull. But the one rhythm he had never quite learned to listen to was his own. Richard had been struggling with morning blood sugar spikes for years. His diet was clean, his medications consistent. But every morning, his fasting glucose levels told a different story. He was frustrated, confused, tired of waking up defeated before the day had even begun. So we looked deeper, not at what he was eating but when. His dinners were often late, sometimes as late as 9 p.m., a habit left over from years of research trips and late-night writing. He believed that as long as the food was healthy, the timing didn't matter. But it did. The body's insulin sensitivity decreases in the evening. When we eat late, especially close to bedtime, glucose lingers longer in the bloodstream. The liver and pancreas, which work together to manage blood sugar, become sluggish as the body prepares for rest. So we made a quiet shift. Dinner before sunset, or, if not possible, at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep. No heavy meals late at night. And after dinner, a short walk through his garden, just to help his body transition gently. Within 10 days, his fasting blood sugar began to drop. It was not a miracle. It was alignment. He had finally matched his meal rhythm with his body's natural clock. Richard told me one morning, while sipping tea on his porch, "I used to think discipline was about restriction. Now I see it as harmony." That's the lesson here. An earlier dinner gives your body time. Time to digest. Time to reset. Time to prepare for healing overnight. And when you wake, your glucose is not struggling to catch up. It is already steady. Many people believe that eating less is the key to controlling diabetes. But often, it is not just about less. It is about when. So tonight, consider closing your kitchen a little earlier. Light a candle. Take a walk. Give your body the peace it needs to restore itself. And now that we've explored the timing of food, let's turn towards something many of us overlook. The food itself. Not all proteins are created equal, and some common meats that seem harmless may be quietly working against you. Let's take a closer look at the most problematic meats for blood sugar control and the smarter choices waiting to take their place. 6. The meat mistake: 3 common proteins that do more harm than good. I remember walking through a local market in Kyoto with a patient named Margaret. She was 70, originally from Chicago, and had moved to Japan to be near her grandchildren. She loved cooking. Food, for her, was how she expressed care. One afternoon, while we were shopping for tofu and vegetables, she picked up a beautiful marbled steak. She looked at me and said, "This should be okay once in a while, right? It's protein." Her question was honest and common. Many people with diabetes focus on cutting sugar and carbs, but what they don't realize is that not all proteins support blood sugar equally. In fact, some can quietly do more harm than good. Take marbled steak, for example. The rich white streaks running through the meat may make it tender and flavorful, but they are mostly saturated fat. This type of fat increases inflammation and insulin resistance, making it harder for your body to manage glucose. Then there's fried fish. On its own, fish is an excellent source of lean protein. But once it's battered and deep fried, everything changes. The extra fat, the refined carbs in the breading, and the high heat cooking method all contribute to post-meal glucose spikes. Not to mention the sodium. And lastly, processed deli meats. They may seem convenient for sandwiches or salads, but they often contain high levels of sodium and preservatives like nitrates. These additives have been linked to poor insulin function and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Margaret listened carefully. She didn't argue or look disappointed. Instead, she nodded and said, "I just never thought of meat as something that needed rethinking." That was her moment of clarity. And from that day forward, she made small changes. She chose lean cuts like grilled chicken breast or turkey, trimmed the visible fat, and explored cooking methods like steaming and slow roasting. She even discovered she loved grilled tempeh. The result? Her post-meal blood sugar became easier to manage. But more than that, she felt lighter, less bloated, more in control. The lesson is not to fear protein. It is to choose it wisely. Not all meat is bad, but some types, especially those high in saturated fat, cooked at high heat, or heavily processed, can quietly sabotage your efforts, especially when eaten regularly. So next time you shop or plan a meal, take a moment to look beyond the label. Ask yourself not just what it tastes like, but how it serves your body. And speaking of choices that nourish and protect, there is a powerful alternative that is often overlooked. One that comes from the earth, not the butcher's counter. Let's explore the surprising strength of plant-based proteins and how they can support your body in ways most meats cannot. 7. Power of plants: why beans and seeds are your best friends. When I first met Jorge, he was a quiet man living on the edge of Fukuoka. A 68-year-old retired engineer from Peru, Jorge had moved to Japan with his wife to be closer to their son, who had married a local woman. Jorge loved structure. He loved numbers. And he believed that if he followed his meal plan precisely, his blood sugar would follow the rules too. But it didn't. Despite cutting out sweets and reducing rice, his readings stayed high after lunch and dinner. He was growing discouraged. So we took a closer look at what was missing. And what we found was something surprisingly simple. Fiber. Jorge's meals were rich in lean meat and vegetables, but lacking in the slow, stabilizing power of plant-based proteins. We made one small change. He added half a cup of black beans to his lunch. At dinner, he sprinkled ground flaxseed over steamed vegetables. And for snacks, he swapped crackers for a handful of pumpkin seeds. Within 2 weeks, his post-meal numbers began to shift. Here's why. Beans, lentils, seeds, and nuts are rich not just in protein, but in soluble fiber, which slows the absorption of glucose in the bloodstream. That means fewer spikes, fewer crashes, and a gentler curve across your day. They also contain magnesium, healthy fats, and plant compounds that reduce inflammation, support gut health, and help insulin do its job more efficiently. What Jorge discovered, and what many of my patients come to realize, is that food is not just fuel. It is chemistry. It is language. And plant-based proteins speak gently to the body, offering nourishment without stress. You don't have to become vegetarian. You don't have to give up meat entirely. But inviting these ingredients onto your plate a little more often can bring powerful benefits. Try a lentil soup on a rainy afternoon. Add chia seeds to your yogurt. Top your salad with roasted sunflower seeds. Blend white beans into a dip or spread. It is not about perfection. It is about presence. About choosing foods that support the body's natural balance. Jorge now says his meals feel calmer. And interestingly, so does he. As we near the end of this journey, there is one final step I want to share. A way to bring everything together into a rhythm you can return to every morning. Because knowledge is powerful, but action is what changes your life. Let's talk about how to begin with just 1 week, 7 days, and how that can be enough to set a new path in motion. 8. 1 week challenge. Turn knowledge into daily healing. In a small town near Matsumoto, I once met Claire. She was 65, a retired school librarian from France who had moved to Japan to study traditional tea culture. Her spirit was gentle, her voice soft, but her relationship with her health was filled with frustration. "I've read so much," she said one day. "I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know where to begin." It's a feeling I hear often, and maybe it's one you've felt too. We gather knowledge. We understand the science. We listen to advice. But when it comes time to act, we freeze. Not because we're lazy, but because change feels overwhelming. So with Claire, we did something simple. We created a 7-day challenge. A gentle, thoughtful week of morning rituals and mindful eating. No pressure. No punishment. Just one intentional habit each day. Day 1, she began with a glass of water by the window before anything else. Day 2, she had a breakfast filled with protein and fiber, eggs and avocado on whole grain toast. Day 3, she enjoyed her coffee only after food, with a scoop of protein blended in. Day 4, she walked for 10 minutes after breakfast, breathing deeply with every step. Day 5, she ate dinner before 7 p.m. and spent the evening reading instead of snacking. Day 6, she chose grilled tofu over red meat, served with warm lentils and greens. Day 7, she ended the week with a colorful salad topped with seeds, nuts, and gratitude. And by the end of that week, something shifted. Not just in her numbers, but in her heart. She felt capable. Because sometimes healing begins with action. Small, imperfect, but sincere. A week of consistency can lay the foundation for a new rhythm, a new identity, a new peace. This is your invitation. Try the challenge. 7 days, 1 step at a time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. And when you do, I hope you'll discover what Claire did. That your body is not your enemy. It is your oldest companion, and it wants to heal with you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If these stories and insights have helped you, please share your thoughts below. Tell me what resonated, or simply let me know if you're starting your own 7-day path. Because when we learn together, when we take that first step quietly, kindly, and with care, healing is not just possible. It becomes inevitable.